It's a question every teacher has heard. When are we ever going to use this? Whether students are learning about Newton's laws and circuits, or Beowulf and Shakespeare, or the Civil War and the Industrial Revolution, why? When are we ever going to use this? And the truth is, maybe never. But think of it this way. A basketball player is given an exercise routine by the coach. Well, why do I have to do that? In a game, I get points for scoring baskets, not for doing push-ups. Yes, but you need muscles to shoot a basket, and if the connection between academics and a well-lived life is less clear, well, I'm sure you'll agree that whatever you do, whether you are a lawyer, a doctor, or a plumber, whatever you do, you'll have to use your mind. Your mind, yes, that thing from part 1. Whatever you do, you'll have to learn new things, make decisions, and use logic. Now, of course, the phrase learn new things is horribly vague. What I really mean is make abstractions. What does that mean? Welcome to physics class. Consider this system. Consider that circuit. The student goes to work through abstraction, seeing both more and less than is given by the senses. For example, we don't care if the rope here is made of cotton or nylon. We don't care if the wire is green or yellow, copper or aluminum. Whatever the values are for mass or angle or voltage, our equations can handle them. Abstraction, equations, it means looking past this or that particular thing to see the concept, the universal, what this system has in common with every other mass and force system, what these wires have in common with every other circuit. And the same process is at play with literature or history, stories and events that transcend a single author or a single decade. They provide insights about things common to us all. In other words, we don't just care about what Shakespeare tells us about Hamlet. We care about what Hamlet tells us about ourselves. We don't just care who was running for president 100 or 160 years ago. We care about who's running for president now. The professionals. The lawyer is able to name more laws than I can, of course, but it's not just a question of quantity. The lawyer sees them differently. I read through a law, it sounds strange to me. The lawyer knows what type of law it is, how it is used, what parts make it unique or special, what parts it has in common with other laws. In other words, the lawyer understands where this law fits into a system, something I would miss even if I read and memorized every word in that law. The doctor prescribes medicine. I focus on the size and the number of the pills. I worry about the side effects. The doctor looks deeper to the chemistry of the medication and how it affects the patient. For the plumber, knowing which pipe to replace or to service and how and why, that requires training. It requires experience, also thinking and abstraction, seeing things others don't. And, number 2, making decisions, something we all do many times a day, some small, others large. Every choice involves applying a universal to a particular, a theory being applied to a specific event. Note, we're not talking here about a deer caught in the headlights or a child unable to resist eating another cookie. We're not talking about addictive or compulsive behaviors. We're talking about human choices, tough choices with competing influences. Sometimes you're trying to decide between a real good and an apparent good. Sometimes you're choosing between two competing goods. Justice, courage, noble ideas, but how do we apply them to a complex situation, one where we have only partial knowledge and no guarantee that our action will have any effect or any good effect, and then we also have instincts for us to listen to or to overcome? It's tough. And on the job, it's the same thing. Choices. Each professional does the same sort of thing. He or she examines the situation, refers back to their expertise, and then chooses a course of action. So you better hit the gym, kid. Well-defined laws, known influences, measurable effects, which forces balance and which ones drive the system. Will we reach an equilibrium, a static or dynamic equilibrium, or will we accelerate towards chaos? And you could ask the same questions for a given literary character or a given time period, and it works. The students, with some prompting, are able to use what they've learned to make a statement and justify it, and of course it works, says the teacher. I've been doing this thing 100 times. And so has the professional. Only no, they haven't seen this thing 100 times. Every situation is unique. Abstraction is seeing past those details that make the situation unique to the essential elements that you have experienced before. Decision-making involves looking even further back past the experiences to principles that are even more fundamental, universal principles such as the rules of logic part 3, the law of the excluded middle, the law of sufficient reason, the law of identity, solid as rock. They're solid, yeah, but how useful are they? Life is more than just a logic puzzle or a game of chess. Wait a minute, no it's not. Life is like a game of chess, only you're not exactly sure what the goal is, and you're not exactly sure what each piece might be capable of. Thank you, literature. Life is like a game of chess where things change without warning. Someone shakes up the board. Thank you, history. Still, a bishop moves diagonally. Otherwise, it's no longer a bishop, and we can have an entire plan worked out in our head, and that doesn't necessarily mean it will work out on the board. The question is, in physics anyway, the question is, does it work? Do the results in the laboratory match up with your prediction? If not, why not? Poorly understood concepts, misapplied principles, a math error? And in the other areas, does your writing make sense or does it fall apart? Did you commit one of these logical fallacies? Maybe you created a new one. But back to our big question. Why are we learning this? Here's the answer, kids, so you can make mistakes. Lots of them. Mistakes you can learn from. You can learn about yourself from the mistakes that you make and that other makes. So yeah, it's true that most lessons you will have to learn on the job. But how are you going to do that if you never practiced how to think?